Happy Mother's Day!
Happy Mother's Day! Happy Mother's Day! Hope you have a blessed and wonderful day. Miss you!
Happy Mother's Day, Mom. Love you so much.
Happy Mother's Day!
Happy Mother's Day. Hope you have a great day.
Happy Mother's Day. Thanks for all you do.
Happy Mother's Day, Mom.
Happy Mother's Day!
Happy Mother's Day, Mom. Technically, it's supposed to be Donut Sunday. You're welcome.
Happy Mother's Day, Mom. Love you lots.
Happy Mother's Day. Thanks so much for joining us at Northern Hills today.
Good morning, Northern Hills. Happy Mother's Day. We're so glad you're here.
Welcome to Northern Hills. Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day. I hope you have a great day.
Happy Mother's Day. Love you, Mom.
Good morning, Northern Hills. We're so glad you're here. Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day!
Happy Mother's Day, Mom.
Happy Mother's Day!
Happy Mother's Day. I hope y'all have a wonderful day. Welcome to Northern Hills. Happy Mother's Day.
Welcome. My name is John Holtorf. I'm lead pastor here at Northern Hills Church. It's great to have you joining us online again this week. If this is your first time watching, special welcome going out to you. We are so glad to have you here. Before we go any further, I want to say Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. I know this day, though, can be hard for some. If you've lost a mom, or if you're a mom who has recently lost a child or been unable to have a child, I get that. Whatever that situation is, it can be a really tough day. I lost my mom at age 11 to cancer, so I get it. It's tough. But I want you to know that I understand that, and I pray that today you will find the comfort that only God can provide. But I do want to celebrate the moms that we have with us. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms, stepmoms, grandmas, and mother-in-laws listening or watching today. Thank you for loving your family well. God has made moms very special, and I hope today that you feel loved and appreciated for all that you do and for all that God has made you to be. Happy Mother's Day. Before Pastor Brandon comes out to continue our series on the new normal, let's spend some time together worshiping God.
When night has fallen, when fear is coming, still you're calling me. When faith is lost and my hope exhausted, you will be my strength. When my mind says I'm not good enough, God, you're enough for me. Yeah, I've decided I'm not giving up. 'Cause you won't give up on me. You won't give up on me. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. I feel it breaking out like an echo. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. No, I feel it breaking out like an echo. Echo in my soul. In every season, you keep repeating promises to me. Whoa, now there's no stopping what you have started until it is complete. When my mind says I'm not good enough, God, you're enough for me. Yeah, I've decided I'm not giving up. 'Cause you won't give up on me. You won't give up on me. Your love is holding on and it decided I'm not giving up. 'Cause you won't give up on me. You won't give up on me. Your love is holding on and it won't let go. I feel it breaking out like an echo. Hey, your love is holding on and it won't let go. I feel it breaking out, breaking out. Hey, your love is holding on and it won't let go. I feel it breaking out like an echo. Your love is holding on and it won't let go now. I feel it breaking out like an echo, echo in my soul, soul, echo in my soul, soul.
I cast my mind to Calvary, where Jesus bled and died for me. I see his wounds, his hands, his feet, my Savior on that cursed tree. His body bowed and drenched in tears, they laid him down in Joseph's tomb, the entrance sealed by heavy stone. Messiah still and all alone. Oh, praise the name of the Lord our God. Oh, praise his name forevermore. For endless days we will sing your praise. Oh Lord our God. Then on the third, at break of dawn, the Son of Heaven rose again. Oh, trample death, where is your sting? The angels run for Christ the King. Oh, praise the name of the Lord our God. Oh, praise his name forevermore. For endless days we will sing your praise. Oh Lord our God. Salvation in robes of white, the blazing sun shall pierce the night, and I will rise among the saints. My gaze transfixed on Jesus' face.
Good morning, Northern Hills. My name is Brandon, and I am part of the teaching team here at the church. I want to welcome all of you that are joining us. I want to welcome those that are joining us for the first time. Please engage with us through our media platforms. We are on Facebook and YouTube. This is our new normal now, and so our new normal is all about engagement. And so if you have a comment to post at any point, we'd love to hear from you. Just engage with you a little bit in that way. And I just want to also throw out, of course, a happy Mother's Day to all the moms before we get started this morning. Again, thrilled that you're spending your Sunday here with us and our family. Now, we all love a good story, don't we? I think it's why we like going to the movies. It's why many of us right now are binge watching a Netflix series because of the cool story that is being told through that series. Many of us have a documentary on our list that we're looking to cross off. See, I believe in the power behind story. Think of just some of your favorite sermons, some of your favorite teachings that you've ever heard. Chances are you might remember the story the pastor was telling in that sermon more than the point the pastor was trying to make in that teaching. You just remember a story that just stuck with you. Now, if the story was told well, you completely remember the point of the sermon because that story was memorable. It made the point very clear. See, we're in week 4 of our teaching series titled The New Normal. And the New Normal has been this series that is addressing this unique time that we all live in as we're facing this worldwide pandemic. During crisis, I believe all of us ask many questions. And this New Normal series has really leaned into one very key question: who do I want to become? What is the new normal that will become an everyday part of my life? And so I just want to encourage you to go back to the previous teachings on this series. It's really the building blocks that we can engage with that lead us to today. Another way that you could ask, who do I want to become, is asking the question, what is the story I want to tell? What is the story that I want to tell about my life? And because we all love a good story, I believe wholeheartedly that we want our story to matter, that we want a story that's worth telling. And our God is such a loving God. I hope we really all realize that more than ever during this time. He's such a loving God because He could write every single detail of our story. He could allow us to be very robotic in the nature that our stories are told because He is the great author. He's God and He can do what He wants. But instead, this good Father, He allows us to choose in great part what our stories will look like. He gives us choice and He gives us free will. Our stories, I believe, are the result of so many variables. We don't get to choose our parents in some of those variables, right? We don't get to choose our family. We don't get to choose where we're born. And during childhood, we had most of our big decisions made for us. Decisions where we lived, what school we attended, what we ate, even when our bedtime was. And as we got older, as we turned into grown-ups, we were responsible for a little bit more and gradually handed over more of that responsibility. So it allowed us to make our own choices. And then in making our own choices, we were expected to face the consequence of those choices. This process includes now adulthood. And we all know this. Part of becoming a mature adult is learning over time to accept responsibility for our choices. We learn that if we drive over the speed limit, there is a chance that we will get a ticket. We learn over time that if we date the wrong person, there's an opportunity for us to end up heartbroken. And every choice we make, whether it's big or small, it affects aspects of our life. And we either learn to take responsibility or we learn to make excuses. We learn to find scapegoats in our lives. So my question for each of us is, how are we choosing to engage with this global pandemic? Because this is not a small passing thing. This is a very big deal. And I'm saying that more to myself than I'm saying it to you this morning because it took me a while to get here. It took me a while to really understand the depth of what we're going through. A crisis on this scale should have all of God's people, the people of God, seeking Him very, very intimately right now. What are you doing, Lord? What's happening? How should I be interpreting this? How should I be praying? Praying for the ones that are close to me, praying for those that I don't even know that are being impacted. Where are we in this story? See, there's hardly a person on our planet right now that has not been affected by COVID-19 or who won't eventually be affected by it. Get this, billions of people are going to be affected by this very profoundly. This is not a small passing thing. This is a big deal. And what we know about God, at least what we can look in the scriptures about God's nature and His character, and probably what we know experientially, is that God uses disruption. That He uses disruption, sometimes major disruption, in our lives to address the things that are in our hearts, to address the things that are in our world that need addressing, in order to recapture our hearts, in order to help us tell the stories we want to tell. See, debating whether or not God brought about this pandemic to wake people up, to me, that's missing the point. Will God use this pandemic? Will He use this pandemic? That's no question. There is no question in my mind that He's going to use this disruption, this shaking. There's a tipping point to every good story that we love. There is good and evil in every great story that we love. And it's important to look at what this time is revealing to us, to our person, to our relationship with God. Jesus tells us things like in Matthew 6:34. Don't worry. So don't worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will bring its own worries. Today's trouble is enough for today. And it's talking about the Father's heart for His people, about how good He is. He's teaching us about prayer. And what He's saying here is, don't worry about tomorrow. Well, what's that revealing to you? How's that going for you right now? What's this pandemic, the economic fallout? What does that reveal to us about not worrying about tomorrow? And what does it reveal to each of us about our faith? Now, we're reminded also throughout Scripture not to turn to other areas of comfort, not to look to anything but God to provide relief and reassurance, the relief and reassurance that we require. 2 Corinthians 1:3-5, all praise to God, the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. God is our merciful Father and the source of all comfort. He comforts us in all of our troubles so that we can comfort others. When they are troubled, we will be able to give them the same comfort that God has given us. For the more we suffer for Christ, the more God will shower us with His comfort through Christ. How's that been going? Where are you? Where have you been turning to for your comfort? And I'm embarrassed to say how much I've turned to my other comforters during this time. I mean, are you baking more in your house during this whole COVID-19 period of time? We are baking like crazy in the Freda household. I don't know what has gone on, but there's a baked good to eat every single day at every single hour. Seriously, it feels like my weight loss goals have truly just gone out the door. They're taking a major hit during this time. But this time has revealed to me, yet again, because this has been a journey for me, this has been part of my story, how much I turn to food and how much I turn to food for comfort. Look, I'm going to say it again. Disruption is one of God's tools to reveal where we are with Him. And it can help us choose the story we want to tell. When we look at who we want to become, or the story we want to tell. I think it can revolve around the very thing that we're supposed to start. That's where our minds, maybe that's even where our heart goes. I'm going to start fill in the blank. I'm going to begin with fill in the blank. And that's how we start with this idea of telling the new story or adding things to tell the story we want to tell. And I want to challenge us this week to think differently. Starting's part of that. We've even had parts of our series talking about what that one thing is maybe you're supposed to start or God's asking us to start. I want us to think differently this week because maybe God isn't asking us to start anything. Perhaps he's simply saying stop. Stop. Pause. Sleep on it. Have a conversation with a loved one, with a friend. Get some godly wisdom from people you trust. Just stop. Because sometimes we head in a direction, and we head in a direction that we know is the wrong one. And when we do that, we move further away from the story that we want to tell about our lives. And I wonder if we just stopped. I wonder if we just took the time to pause, to consider the consequences to the narrative that we want to write. And I wonder if we could just travel in the right direction by simply stopping and looking at the direction that we're going in, maybe the direction that's wrong. In Exodus 18, Moses knew. He knew that something had to change in his life, or he was going to fall apart trying to manage all of the demands that were on his life. See, he had successfully led the Israelites out of Egypt, out of slavery that they were in Egypt, and Moses becomes responsible. He becomes responsible for the people. And so he is hearing all of the Israelites' problems. He's beginning to hand down judgments. And he kept this up day after day after day until he was spent. He was wiped out with all of the responsibilities that he held on his shoulders. And so finally his father-in-law, Jethro, comes up to him. And he offers him some tough love. Exodus 18, 17 through 19. "This is not good," Moses' father-in-law exclaimed. "You're going to wear yourself out, and the people too. This job is too heavy a burden for you to handle all by yourself. Now listen to me, and let me give you a word of advice." Let's just pause there, because some of us can relate to this. Some of us are juggling so much right now. We have a full-time job, and we are trying to teach our kiddos, our students. We are trying to be something that we were never created to be, but we're holding those two responsibilities. Layoffs, joblessness. See, some of us are working, and we are grateful that we're working right now, but some of us have been put in a position to let other people go, to let members of our team go. And we know that that affects people. We know that families are deeply affected by that. And so we wear these things. We wear this responsibility. And we wear all of this. And it damages us. Jethro tells Moses, "This job is too heavy a burden for you to handle." And here's the encouragement that Jethro gives Moses, verse 19. "And may God be with you." See, he gives him a simple, practical solution. Sometimes the word is so simple to grasp. May God be with you. Life for most of us in the developed world, I believe it doesn't require a lot of dependence on God. Think of life prior to this pandemic. See, we could book a flight to anywhere in the world from our phones. We could travel anywhere we wanted to in this entire world, wherever we wanted, whenever we wanted to. We didn't have to think twice about that before this crisis. We could go to a restaurant And you could be craving any kind of food, any type of food or restaurant you wanted to go to, you could go to that. And that place is generally just around your neighborhood. You didn't have to go far reaches to get that kind of food. You could go shopping wherever you wanted to go and get the items that you needed and go to a grocery store. And we could go into that grocery store expecting to get the very item we wanted, the very food we wanted. And there was no question that it would be there if we needed it. We were absolutely sure it would be there. All of that was guaranteed before COVID-19. Did you need any form of medical care? Need to make a dentist appointment or maybe a doctor's appointment, checkup appointment for the kids? Easy. Easy peasy to do. Just pick up the phone, book it, and you were good to go. We could drop off our kids at school for hours at a time, and we knew that they were well cared for and being educated. So what is a life like that? What does a life like our old normal look like when it comes to our dependence on God? What does a life like that do to our gratefulness of God? What is being revealed to us during this time? What is being revealed to us about what our normal used to look like? May God be with you. Jethro is challenging Moses to stop. Just stop and think. Stop doing it the way you've been doing it. Stop and consider your story, Moses. Is this the way you want it to go? Where you're going to own all of this responsibility and through it you're going to burn everybody out. You're wearing yourself out, man. You're wearing the people around you out. Just stop. And so Jethro goes on to tell Moses to select a few capable leaders and to train them to handle the disputes that he was hearing himself. He describes this system. It's sort of like delegating 101 here. How to handle the volume of complaints. And it doesn't need to overwhelm your leaders, Moses. We can essentially have a hierarchy and where some people oversee thousands and some oversee hundreds, some 50s, some tens. And instead of Moses taking all of that responsibility upon himself, he would be able to delegate, to empower others with that authority so that everyone could be heard, leaving Moses to what? To focus on what he needed to focus on. And so people would go home happy and heard. Moses would go home with his load just a bit lighter. And apparently Moses didn't have to think twice about it. Exodus 18:24, Moses listened to his father-in-law's advice and followed his suggestions. See, Moses stopped. And he, like us, he was given the opportunity to choose a different path, choice, free will, a loving God. And it required him, as he had this opportunity to choose, it required him to stop doing something the way he has always been doing it. Here's the question. What if the story you want to tell is determined by the thing God is asking you to stop? What if the story you want to tell is determined by the thing that God is asking you to stop? And this can be difficult for us. Stopping something can be just as difficult, maybe even more difficult than starting a new thing. And I think it's because we don't look at things through the lens of the future. We're not good at playing the long game. For example, starting a new, or let's just call it a good habit. It's challenging at first, and then the payoff, the win, is somewhere in the future. Am I right on that? Have you noticed that in your own life? See, let's just give an example. Let's say that you decide that you're going to start doing CrossFit. And so in the morning, your alarm goes off, and there's that initial, what in the world am I doing? What did I choose to do here, right? And it's so darn early, but you put your stuff on, you're trying to stay positive. Okay, this is going to be great. And then you start, and it's not so great. It's painful, and it's hard, and it's difficult. And you do this for a while and you see no payoff. And you have to do it for a consistent amount of time. You have to play the long game. But then 7 months later, you wake up and things have changed a little bit. You're more positive. You got more energy. Oh my gosh, I'm even down 9 pounds, and hey, I'm well on my way to buns of steel here. This is good. This is a good thing, right? See, it's difficult at first, and the payoff is somewhere out there in the future. You decide that you're going to get plugged into church more. You want to get involved, and you want to get to know some more people. Find that area that just serves that sort of emptiness in your life, that's going to fill your cup, and that's going to fill you using your passion. So you get there, and it starts off, I got to go in Sunday. I got to go serve with the kiddos, or I got to get up and go serve at the 9 o'clock service, and there's not that initial payoff. But then a year later, you wake up and you're going, wow, I feel like God's just using me, and I feel like my gifts are being used in this specific area. I feel like I'm making a difference, and a difference is being made in me. I've met these new friends around me. We're doing life together. I'm growing in my faith. I'm trusting God so much more with other areas in my life. See, that didn't happen after a couple weeks. It took time, and it's difficult at first, but the payoff's in the future. That's the long game. Now, that's starting something. I think stopping bad habits, stopping something that's bad for us, that also includes the future. It's just coming at things with a different perspective. You see, with bad habits, there's a perceived benefit immediately. That is what's different. There's a perceived benefit immediately. It's fun to do what's wrong at first. Sin can be fun. I'm going to be clear here. Sin can be fun. How many of you agree with that? Just raise your hands from your living room or your kitchen. Maybe, again, comment. Type in, sin can be fun. And then people are going to wonder, like, what is this church that is saying sin is fun? Again, I'm not telling you to go sin. I'm just saying sin can be fun. It can be. I'm just trying to be honest, to engage with that. Because either, if you don't believe that, either you haven't done it right or you're just lying. Okay? That's just the truth of it. But here's the deal. Sin, bad choices, bad habits, things that separate us from God, things that separate us from relationship with God, it can be fun in the moment, and then it's not. If you keep perpetuating bad choices or bad habits in your life, then it messes us up long term. That's where the long game plays out in stopping something as well. It can be difficult to stop a bad habit because there is that perceived benefit immediately, but the negative payoff isn't until the future. And if we don't think about the long game and how this will affect me long term, then we are in a bad place. And I want to just get real world with you for a second. I'll share something that I can relate to. See, I used to have metabolism. I used to have very strong metabolism. I could eat anything, and especially in my early to mid-20s. It was sort of like every food outing was a kind of all-you-could-eat buffet, and believe me, I was eating it all. It was good for a while, and then a decade, and then a couple of decades later, I get rushed into a hospital because my heart is failing me. Now, some of that's genetic, but much of that was made by a lot of bad choices. And I play out the story and I play out the long game, even in my life now, that the story is not over. This is an ongoing thing. There's a perceived benefit with the bad choices for a little while. There's a negative payoff that comes later. If God is asking us to stop something, to become utterly dependent on Him, as we navigate the story that we want to tell, I believe it's going to require us to think in a certain way. It's going to require us to understand that the long game is key to making change. We've got to understand that the long game is key to making change. Now again, here's what I want to challenge us to do. To not start, don't start anything. Let's just stop. Let's just stop something. To pause, to embrace this long game by just stopping and asking God what He's revealing to us during this time. And we've learned that we're playing the long game with this virus. If you would have asked me 7 weeks ago, I would have told you that we would be back in church this month, connecting with one another on a Sunday morning. I miss everyone. I can't tell you how much I miss you all. And I know many of us are desperate to get back to how things were before we were being forced to play the long game. And we're being forced to stop and look at things. Maybe how things were, but also how things are going to be moving forward or how we want them to be. And I'm leaning in. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. The pandemic isn't a good thing, but God is using this disruption. He's using this shaking to do a good thing. Now, Moses stopped trying to do everything himself, and we can't miss the importance of Moses' decision here. It wasn't that he did more, Moses did less. May God be with you. Family, friends, dependence on God will free us. The dependence on God that we can choose to live by will free us. Moses' circumstances, they were changed. The story was even changed because Moses chose God. Moses chose a different path. He chose a different way to tell the story, and the same can be true for us. God may call us to abort or abandon or abolish something to stop the one thing that allows us to live out the story we want to tell. Now, even though we could probably come up with several things we could stop doing, for this week I only want us to pick one thing. I know this about us. If we pick 5 things, I can almost guarantee that we won't be successful in any of them. So let's just pick one thing. And let's remember this week, understanding that the long game is key to making change. Let's understand that the people of faith understand that we are in the long game. COVID-19 has pointed that out to us very clearly. This is not our home. This is not where we belong. God has given us this time here on earth, the people of God, to impact the world. So what I say about that, if we understand that our faith is the long game and we understand that change is the long game, let's have grace on ourselves with the thing we're looking to stop. Let's pace ourselves. Let's have patience with ourselves. Many of us, we know what is wrong. We know what we're doing that's not fueling our story, but instead draining it of its power. And if you don't know, seek help. Read a book. I would offer to reach out to a friend. I believe what's most important through all of that, though, is to seek Jesus Christ, to fix our eyes on Jesus, to read his word, because he is the one that's looking to perfect our faith. And this isn't behavior modification, it's relationship with our Maker. The more we seek him out, the more he's going to show us things that are hindering the story we want to tell. And maybe in the past you've recognized what that thing was you were supposed to stop. You've even attempted to stop that thing, and you've tried in of your own power and especially on your own, just like Moses holding all the responsibility on yourself. I believe God's just saying, stop. Let me. I'm God. I'm in control. I got this. I got this because by the power of Jesus Christ, by the power of Christ's Spirit, by the power of the Holy Spirit that lives in each of us, we can accomplish anything. And so it's not on us to accomplish. Pastor John highlighted this last week. It's not about us. It's not about your ability or your giftedness. Just like Moses, it's not on us. That same Spirit that dwells in us is also the same Spirit that raised Jesus from the dead. He is the one that will give us the power that we require to change the trajectory of our story.
I am weary from the waves crashing over every day. God of mercy, please come rescue me. presence breaks strongholds. King of heaven, when you speak, mountains move. I believe there will be breakthrough. You alone can take my scars, piece by piece restore my heart. Take what's broken, make it whole again. Oh, your power, your presence breaks strongholds. King of heaven, when you speak, mountains move. I believe there will be breakthrough. There will be breakthrough. Shake the mountains, break the walls apart, open the heavens. Almighty God, you are overcomer, defender of my heart. It's who you are, God, oh, by your power. The oceans open wide, your fire falls down, heaven and earth go wide. King Jesus, forever by my side. Shake the mountains, yeah. Shake the mountains, break the walls apart, open the heavens. Almighty God, you are overcomer, defender of my heart. Yeah. By your power, the oceans open wide, your fire falls down, heaven and earth collide. King Jesus, forever by my side. Your power, your presence breaks strongholds. King of heaven, when you speak, mountains move. I believe there will be breakthrough. Your power, your presence breaks strongholds. King of heaven, when you speak, mountains move. I believe there will be breakthrough. There will be
The story you want to tell may be determined by the thing that God is asking you to stop. We often think about what God is telling us to do, but I love where Brandon challenged us today to get us to ask, what might God be telling you to stop? Let's prayerfully consider that this week. So how are you all doing? I know we've been doing this online thing for church and for the last couple of months, and I know that I really miss us gathering together as a church family. You've heard us say that the church is not the building, and that is still so true. But this doesn't mean that we don't miss gathering together. So I think these feelings are understandable. But in the meantime, we will continue to be the church in our community. For the last 7 weeks, we've hosted the Adams County Supply Drive in partnership with Let Your Light Shine. and we will once again be hosting it today from 12 to 1 p.m. The need isn't stopping, and I actually suspect that it's going to continue to grow. Since March 22nd, this effort has fed almost 1,700 people through emergency food and supply boxes for those in need. Thank you to all who have donated supplies, who have stocked boxes, or who have delivered these boxes to people that in need. Also, because of all these donations to Love Your Neighbor Fund, we were able to have an additional $500 that we were able to give to Let Your Light Shine this week to help with the purchase of needed supplies. If you have anything you'd like to donate, there'll be a team here today from 12 to 1 p.m. for you to be able to drive through and drop off supplies. For those of you that call Northern Hills your church home, or for maybe even those who are looking for a church home, we invite you to join our church Facebook group called Northern Hills Community. In this group, we've been hosting Facebook Live events throughout the week, and we'd love to have you join us. So go on to Facebook, search for Northern Hills Community, and join our group. Finally, if you'd like to help support Northern Hills financially, the easiest way for you to do that is to go to nhills.org/give to see how you can support this ministry. If you haven't downloaded the Secure Give app yet, I encourage you to do so, as it is one of the easiest and best ways to give. Once you have the app installed, search for Northern Hills, and you'll be able to give right through the convenience of your own phone. Through online giving, you'll be able to give to our general fund, or you can give to our Love Your Neighbor Fund as we continue to look for ways for us to come beside efforts in our community to love others well. Thank you so much for your continued support of Northern Hills Church. Would you pray with me as we close? Father, thank you so much for who you are. Father, I just pray that as we dive into this new normal, that we will continue to look to you for guidance, continue to look to you for the things that we should continue to do, the things that we want to make habits in our lives. But also, God, I pray that we'll have the opportunities to look at those things and have conviction of those things that we should also stop. Father, thank you so much also for all the moms today. Man, I pray that they feel welcome, that they feel loved, that they feel appreciated. I pray that the families will surround them and give them all those feelings. And most of all, God, I just pray that they find you and that they know you in a personal way. God, thank you so much for all you do for us. Thank you for how you provide in so many different ways. Thank you for the opportunity for us to come together and worship you and learn from you. Pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Guys, so great to have you with us today. Join us next week as we hit our final week on the New Normal series. Look forward to seeing you then. Take care. Bye.